a while back now, I did a video on what I termed echo prisons. Now, we're all familiar with what an echo chamber is. That's when you lock yourself into a social media or a friendship bubble where the only people you ever really talk to are people who already agree with you. And obviously that has rather limited use if you want to expose yourself to other points of view. That's a problem. But that's self-imposed. You know, it doesn't... It's something you do to yourself. You know, it's a matter of personal choice. And that's less problematic than things are when something's imposed upon you. You know, that's a far bigger issue. And an echo prison is when this is done to you, but it's not by your own choice. It's when people marginalize you and shut you out, and so you only end up talking to people who agree with you, not out of your own choice, but because you've been cut off from any other possibility. That's far more of a problem. Why bring this up now? Well, various things have brought this back to mind, this idea of the way in which people get imprisoned in these, the way in which you can drift, and a couple of other things that people have said. I've seen it happen with Jeremy in the Magic the Gathering community. I've seen it happen other places. What really kind of crystallized it in my mind was hearing someone say something that I've often heard before. I was like, "Oh, I said mean words to you, now you're a Nazi." You know, that it sounds stupid, it seems silly when you put it that way, that oh, you know, just because I was mean to you, you've decided to be a Nazi. Well, yeah, that's stupid, but that's a misrepresentation of a lot of what goes on, and I think people are underappreciating the effect that echo prisons can have on people, the effect that accusations can have on people, the way it pushes them away, and it can lead to them being more extreme, or seemingly extreme, quite rapidly. So I think it's worth exploring again and trying to understand how this happens, and to appeal to social justice warriors to stop using these kind of tactics, because ultimately they're just self-defeating. To avoid treading on any toes or getting mired in any specifics, let's make up an example. So there's a guy called Bob. Bob is a pretty liberal dude, all things considered, you know. He's all for gay marriage, he's all for equal rights and representations for women, people of colour, whatever. He just likes it when it's done well, say. He likes it done well and properly and without regard for political grandstanding or other nefarious things like that. But all things considered, he's a liberal guy. He's always voted left wing. He's supported all the right causes and whatever else. But the paradigm is shifting, and it's shifting not exactly left, but authoritarian. That's the way things are going, and the left has become so very self-policing that things that were completely innocent before, or even considered part of the left wing, now Bob has been left behind somewhat. Bob's, say, pro-free speech. Bob likes pornography and doesn't see a problem with it. He doesn't see it as a big social ill or necessarily an exploitation of women any more than it is men. Bob gets into an argument about this with someone, someone who otherwise shares all his values, but they disagree over this one thing. Bob likes sexual freedom and thinks it's a great thing and was part of women's liberation and all the rest of it. And this other person, let's call them Kathy, disagrees violently, buys into the whole trafficking thing, has an idea of pornography that's locked into the 1980s world of drug use and exploitation and whatever else. They disagree. Kathy takes it massively publicly. Bob ends up treated like an absolute pervert for whatever reason, who is excusing the abuse of women. Bob comes in for a lot of harassment and gets painted everywhere as a Nazi. Bob gets cut off from his old support group, his old friends and so on, perhaps speak to him less. Anytime he goes on social media or tries to go to anything that he normally does, he is being attacked and abused. Bob is isolated. Now, nobody on the left is willing to talk to Bob anymore. Bob has been imprisoned. At that point, he doesn't have anyone to talk to. He only has the content of his own mind, really. But from Bob's point of view, he is innocent. I think to most people's point of view who aren't lunatics, Bob is pretty innocent. He just has a differing point of view. You know, he's got things to back up what he's saying, but he's being treated like an absolute pariah. Bob is thinking, well, you know, they're calling me all this horrible shit. They're trying to destroy my life. They're attacking me anywhere and everywhere online. What am I supposed to do here? But if they're calling me all these things, maybe it's not true about other people. So Bob starts reading other stuff. Bob shares his story. Bob reaches out to a few people that he thinks maybe have been treated unfairly in the same way. And soon the only people that will talk to Bob are people who have the opposite view to the people that used to be his friends. Bob ends up shut into this echo prison. Now, a lot of people in there are going to be like Bob, perfectly innocent and normal. But there's also going to be people who are predatory or dangerous, or who have wacko ideas that are more to the right than the left. These labels are decreasingly useful, but hopefully you get what I mean. So Bob is going to be exposed to those viewpoints, and the viewpoints of people like him who have been marginalized and cast out but are still open to listening to other people. But the left is no longer talking to Bob or any of these other people. So he only gets the kind of liberal free speech viewpoint and the nasty shitheads on the other side of things. That's all he gets exposed to. So what's going to happen to Bob's point of view if he's not getting access to these opposing viewpoints? He's going to drift. Might even go a little crazy for a while. And whose fault ultimately is that? Well, it's the people on the left who marginalised Bob, who locked him into an echo prison with these other people that they don't like, rather than continuing to communicate and to argue, and understanding that Bob agrees with them on 99% of everything and just disagrees on this small portion. But because they have this absolute demand for orthodoxy and agreement, that one point of disagreement is enough to cast Bob into the wilderness east of Eden. Now, the worst part of this is it can become self-reinforcing. To use a practical example that I know a lot about, consider Gamergate. Gamergate was made up of primarily left-wing, liberal, pro-free speech, pro-left-wing values people. So why did its support and initial kind of media access, why did the only fair reporting come out of Breitbart, a far-right mouthpiece? How the merry fuck did that happen? Well, despite the gamers being primarily left-wing, despite them holding all these left-wing values, they got into a conflict over, one particular thing, maybe two or three things overall, with the left-wing establishment, who then treated them as pariahs, called them all kinds of names, told them they were harassers and shitheads and basement dwellers and whatever else, and cut them off and wouldn't hear their point of view at all. So where else are you going to go? You get desperate for anyone to take up your story and tell the truth. Some months ago now, I wrote into the Jeremy Kyle show, which is a kind of my brother got my mother pregnant sort of show, lie detectors and chair throwing and all that kind of shit. Why the fuck would I do that? A lot of people asked me. Well, they were going to do a show on trolling and online abuse. I'm probably not going to go on the show. I got a call back today, which is why people are asking me about this. But my nuanced viewpoint and my manner and way of things doesn't really fit their format. But they were doing this show, and I thought, what the fuck? Let's give it a punt. Let's see if they'll have me on, because I've experienced both sides, and I have a point of view about that I think I can put across, even on the Jeremy Kyle show. Maybe that's foolish of me, but you feel like you have to try. And necessity is the mother of invention. It also makes you more desperate. It's in a similar way to like terrorism is the politics of last resort, or war in other circumstances. You just take whatever you can get, and if that happens to be Milo and Breitbart News, you'll do it. If it happens to be Sargon, I don't think that example particularly fits this whole paradigm, but you're going to do it. You're going to go and talk to him. If you'll just take the opportunities that are presented to you to get your message out when you've been cut off. Whereas if people on the left would be fairer and would engage and talk and discuss, rather than only the people on the right, for whatever reason being the ones that are willing to do that, I think we'd have a much better discourse. Just being willing to talk improves things massively, massively, if you will. And yet we don't have that, and so things just continue to get more and more polarized. And the blame that I see for that does lie primarily on the pseudo left. This isn't fixable from within the left libertarian movement, the cultural libertarians, the classical liberals, whatever you want to, the skeptic community, whatever you want to call us. It's not solvable from within this community. It just can't be done. They're already open, but the only other people open to talking are the people on the right, and to an extent they and trolls like Amos Yee take advantage of our willingness to discuss and talk, to project their viewpoint, and we would be hypocrites if we cut them off. But we need balance, and that balance can only come if people on this pseudo left and the genuine left were more willing to talk and discuss. They're more willing to meet across the table and discuss our ideas and our points of division and so on. And even if we don't come to agreements, that's still valuable. But they're just unwilling to talk. The perfect is the enemy of the good, and if we disagree over one thing, that's it. You're Turbo Hitler, and that's an end to any possibility of discussion. I mean, look at the Kilroy event. They genuinely do want people from other points of view to attend and to talk and to discuss and to debate. But it's like pulling teeth. It's like pulling unicorn teeth. First you've got to find a unicorn, then you have to persuade it to let you pull its teeth. It's virtually impossible. Why? It shouldn't be impossible. People should be lining up to challenge ideas. I'd love to go and challenge people's ideas, but how's it going to happen in this circumstance? And that's the only way out of this prison, is we need to persuade these people to open up and to discuss and to meet. We can't even talk to them, to ask them, to persuade them, because we're all blocked. What do you do? I don't know. Ideas on the back of a postcard or in the comments section, if you please. Zang.